Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kar here with the Infinite Magicraid video. And in today's video, I want to talk about something that I don't think is being talked about enough here in Infinite Magicraid. And the gist of this whole thing, just to summarize, is going to be talking about how Faction Abyss is incredibly important and really beneficial long-term for your account. This is going to be the main thing we need to focus on for progression. And trying to think about this as much as possible is going to be really important for progression long-term. And that's the main point of this video here. And so this is not all me. I was talking with Etup on stream today on his chat. I was just chatting with him and he had a lot of good ideas as well when it comes to this. So this is not, definitely not all me when it comes to this idea. But mainly it's just, it seems like there's an overemphasis, in my opinion, on Tower of Mark and not much emphasis on Faction Abyss. And I get it because this is really long-term content, really hard, and it's already hard enough to try to get food for characters. That's a big struggle. So let alone maybe thinking about Tower of Mark is kind of up there because you can, getting a lot of the same Force Mark people or whatever color you happen to get a lot of characters on, it makes sense to okay, well, cool, it's at least good in Tower of Mark. And it's significantly harder to not only get characters you want to build that you happen to pull, and they're the same faction. So I get it. And it's one of those things that is going to be really difficult, but the difference of progression and what you gain from Tower of Mark and Faction Abyss is just infinitely better for the Faction Abyss. And let me show you. So when you get to this section here, this is all your mark down. So Force Mark is the main one I focus on here. And I can farm level 21. To give you an idea. But look at the kind of stuff that we get here. So it goes up like pretty reasonable prices. And then once you hit level 10 on these, and you want to hit level 10 in each one, so you can move to level 2, and you hit 10 on each of them, then you get to level 3. But once you hit 10, it goes from 5 each, like 5, 10, 15, 20, and then you get to 50, going from 9 to 10. But then it gets to like 120. And to go from here, it just gets exponentially more. So as you can see here, this 13, it takes 180 marks here. And you're getting an attempt here once every 4 hours. Then you only get, in my case, I get 40 of these. A lot of people get less than that. So then the amount of stats you're gaining from this is like 0.3 speed. Yes, this all adds up, and this is going to be something that, obviously you're going to want to focus on. I just think in the grand scheme of things, this is pretty marginal if you want to compare faction stuff where you get auras. And then the auras that you're really wanting to try to get is going to be a lot of the ones here in the epic, and then of course in the legendary category. And this deserves this whole other video, but some of the ones that I think are going to be a big deal going forward are going to be potentially Dwarven Blessing, because we're going to need to be able to survive in the dungeons, especially when you hit stage 26. It just gets crazy hard. I'm not there yet, but just looking at the difference of like how powerful certain content creators teams are, and they're still getting bodied in faction or in the Dwarven Ruins. So this could be something good. Also, a nice thing about this is if you look at the runes here, see how this takes 4, 5, and 6. Some of these other ones will take different runes. So we're going to need to focus on some effects. These might not be the most sexy effects, but we're going to need to kind of separate these out because just how the RNG is going to roll on when we get these epic runes here. The one I think is the most exciting is going to be this one right here. Restores all allies HP by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9% of caster's max HP after casting a skill. This one is insane, but this takes some of the rarest versions of the epic runes of 7, 8, 9. And you can check that when you go to crafting here in the rune crafting, the chances of getting them go down as the number gets higher. So when you're looking at something that's taking runes 7, 8, 9, and 10, just know that those are the rarest versions of the epic runes. So these other ones, these other effects like this, not as good of effect, but you're going to get a lot more of these runes than you are of something like, for example, a recovery horn aura. And when you're planning this, you want to make sure that you don't have overlap in your runes. So notice how 7 is used a ton. For example, you'll see 7 is used here, 1, 2, and 7 is used here. Hit 1, you have 1, 3, 5. So depending on how you want to build your team, depending on your comps, you also got to keep in mind when you're choosing your auras, you choose the right auras. But these effects here, point being, these effects here are infinitely better than like 0.3 speed or whatever. And yes, it's going to take a lot more to get here, but I'm just trying to sell you on the fact that this is going to make your team so much better. And what feels very overwhelming and very daunting now, if you plan correctly and have a really good faction wars team, it's eventually going to get you here. Because how this works, if you're not familiar, as you get green and blue runes, 10 of them get converted into a random of the higher version. So you're going to get a ton of greens, ton of blues, and then you get an attempt every 2 hours here in the faction war or faction wars area. And I call it faction wars because of Raid Shadow Legends, but it's faction abyss in this game. And so you can go deep. Currently I have 2 characters built up in the Doom Legion here, so I can get to stage 15 and this is where I die. But imagine you actually had a lot of characters in the same area. And then also at the same time, we'll talk about like team comps and stuff like that and what potentially could be good here in a moment. But in this situation here, I actually have kind of like the ideal situation where Liz and Gunner are both the same force affinity or the same color mark, and they're in the same faction. So it works out in both ways. So ideally it would be, you know, 5 characters, all the same thing. You can all double down on, they're the same faction and they're all good characters and they all complement each other, but that's obviously not going to be the case here. So point being, we got to think about this, especially as we're building our teams and thinking long-term, because this is so much more important than the tower mark, in my opinion. I feel like the tower of the mark is the settle, but because food is so hard, people are like excited to, oh, okay, nice. I'll take like doing well in the marks as well, because it's just so difficult to get food. And then you also get to get character pulls of the same faction, whatever. But there is some factions that I think are going to be a lot easier than others. And there's a lot of free-to-play level characters that either directly free-to-play or they're epic characters that kind of synergize well that we can get our hands on. That I think there's going to be a lot of themes here that a lot of people are going to want to do. And this is also going to impact our choices here on the mythic we choose, because I think this is obviously one of the biggest, if not the biggest choice you're going to make on your account. It's going to take a few months to get here. As you can see, I've been playing 15 days right at the time of recording this video, and I have 18 of these guys. So this is definitely going to take quite a while to get, and this choice is going to make a massive difference. Now let's talk about the characters we can choose. Now that we're thinking about this long term, let's think about what the smartest potential choices are for the correct faction. And I think the big ones to keep in mind, because we got to think Space is a free character, Margarita is a free character, and then other characters that are good that are like epics, for example. So I think the big one would be Holder is a very popular character. And then also Bissidin here is another popular character in the epic faction here. And we look at these characters. Agatha is someone you pull way later on in the faction wars, so obviously a main character, but this is going to be the whole thing we're focusing on later. She's off the table. There is good characters in this faction. I can see this being a popular faction, but the main character here, she's not great when it comes to the other main characters when it comes to the mythic heroes. So I think this faction would be off the table. I think there's better factions to focus on. I think the 2 main factions to focus on when it comes to this there's probably going to be 2 good ones. I think Doom Legion is one, because you are already guaranteed Margarita, and you have access. Everyone likes Liz. Liz is one of the best, if not the best epic in the game, in my opinion. And she's an amazing healer, especially as you get her exclusives. So when dot damage happens to you, it just becomes a heal. She has a really good shield, the exclusive 3 level, where it makes the shield 40% amazing. Easily, this is a no-brainer choice. You have amazing support for this one. You have a great AoE nuker in this character in Margarita that every account gets. So you just got to get lucky in the epic. It's not like you need all of these legendaries to make this work. Every account is eventually guaranteed Oakman if you play enough Advanced Arena. It was an amazing HP burn character for bosses and waves as well if Margarita needs cleanup there. Focus is a great character. And then single target damage, you could pick Lucifer, who a lot of people like to pick either first or second for their mythics. So this would be a great option for you for a faction to focus on, you know, down the line. Ideally, these would all be the same affinity as well, but they're really not. Margarita's blue. You got Oakman yellow, Liz yellow at least. So you're not going to get that synergy, but you at least get good picks that are free to play friendly, that are really good characters too. These are not characters that you would only want to use because they're good for this. Like Margarita is used to farm the Dragon Cliff. She's used all the time in PvP. Same with Liz is used a ton. You could also, this guy's good as a HP burner. You probably don't really want to build him if you can avoid it. You're going to want to just hold out and build this guy. Way later on, this is going to take a while. This is probably going to take as long as a mythic to farm to get this guy. And then Lucifer is obviously no brainer. Being able to do all this damage here, he invises. He's going to be fantastic for this. So I think sold you on this, and then also focus amazing character 2, being able to help with your nuking potential on Margarita. And then now that we got that faction, let's talk about the other faction I think can be really good. This is also Etep's idea. I'm just regurgitating what he was saying on stream, but this faction here. And he was totally going to do this, but didn't have Zia. But I kind of have the same characters that he was talking about. And then with this faction, I think the noticeable thing to really emphasize here is that Catherine's part of this faction. And Catherine, easily one of the best characters in the game, if not the best character in the game. So being able to take this character that every account eventually gets when you 3-star the campaign, you're going to get a counter attack, you're going to get a shield, you get restores all allies HP by 4.8% of Catherine's max HP at the beginning of each turn. And then you also get Consolidation 2 for all allies for 2 turns in this move here. And then eventually we'll be able to exclusive her out completely, all free to play if we play the game enough. So we're going to get the full version of Catherine here. So this is sick. And then on our auto attack, this is the big thing here, is feebleness as well, which is the best debuff for damage, increases damage received by 40%. Then we have an amazing mythic here in Ben Austin. And I think a lot of people think of Ben Austin as a character that you might want to pick up either second, third, maybe you go Luna, and then you go Lucifer, and then maybe Ben Austin, for example. But I'm thinking, with this strategy, depending on your pulls, and depending on how good your Sword Harbor guards are, I would say you just go all in on Sword Harbor guards. Because and you go all in on getting Ben Austin, because his exclusive is easily his exclusive 3. Because if you're not familiar with how mythics work, is you take more of the shards to then get the exclusive version. His exclusive 3 is absolutely insane, where it resets the cooldown if it fails to kill an enemy target. And what he does is he has that everyone get in here kind of team attack. So it removes all buffs on the enemy target, then inflicts res buff on them for 1 turn, so they can't take any buffs. Cleanses all control effects from all allies and makes them pursue and attack this enemy target 1 time. And I don't know how the mechanics would work, but with Catherine, feebleness on there, forcibly putting that on there, then everyone else attacks with there. You have, in my case, Zia and Sigmund on here, and I think this would be some of the best characters in the game, all focused on one job of getting you those auras for your team. And the cool thing about Faction Abyss is that when you really focus down on this, let's say you get really far into one faction, it's really not that big of a deal because you're getting the runes for every character. The only thing you're missing out on are these to level up them further. So you can still focus on that and get a ton of stuff for your team. Yes, only the Sword Harbor guards are going to get it leveled, but you have so many good characters in there and they all kind of synergize and work well together. So those are the 2 main ones that kind of stand out to me because they have free-to-play characters built in. Like, I would consider Catherine a free-to-play character because once you 3-star the campaign, everyone gets this character. Yes, that's really hard to do, and a lot of people will use their mythic to do that. And Luna is a really popular choice for wanting to do that. But if we look at this faction that she's in, so we have Luna here, the amazing character here in Serena. There was just like that rate up thing for her. Taff is a great character. So I think this is a good faction here, especially with Maeve. Like there's definitely good characters in this faction, and I don't want to say getting Luna first is a bad thing. I'm just thinking long term. Right now we're hyper valuing survivability, reviving, because we want to 3-star the campaign. But if we really just focus on doing damage, getting survivability through getting all our food up, and having everyone at full ascended, thinking long term, I think we're not going to care so much about people rezzing and surviving, because we're going to just be able to have the gear and the resources to be able to just either kill the enemies fast enough, either survive long enough because we have the full awakening, plus we'll have more of the auras. But we're going to care more about damage. We're going to care more about how much we can do, especially when we're thinking about guild boss here. If we're looking to try to do as much as possible, I think we're going to value different characters in the future, and we're going to be like, okay, everyone wanted Luna then, but if you just kind of, yes, Luna's good, and I understand why people want Luna, but just thinking long term, I think she's not going to be nearly as sought after as these other characters are. Like, I think Lucifer, Ben Austin especially, but then other characters like Kia and Nordak, I think could also be really amazing too long term, because they're really more focused on the damage side that we're going to care more about, because we're not going to care about 3-starring stuff. We're going to care about beating hard dungeons, and dungeons don't care if you 3-star it or not. What it cares about is consistency of being able to clear it so we can auto battle it and get the best loot. So this is not only focusing on dungeons, it's focusing on guild boss, it's focusing on faction wars. That's going to in turn boost everything up instead of just settling on finding the best character that 3 stars campaign and is still good in arena. Like, you see a ton of Lunas everywhere, but you also see Ben Austins. You also see Lucifers. So people make these decisions anyway. I just think it's a more all-encompassing choice to do this and really double down on this. Yes, it's going to depend on what you pulled yourself, but a lot of these options here I pointed out do cater to the free-to-play. Margarita, Liz, yes, you got to get lucky to pull Liz, but Margarita everyone pulls for, and then you get Lucifer in there, you get Oakman here. So this is totally, I think this is reasonable. I think this is something to consider. I think this is going to really change accounts here long term. And the people that focus on this are going to have crazy auras. They're going to really matter, especially, way down the line when it comes to legendary ones with the different speed bonuses you get. Like, it gets insane when you get the legendary auras there. So I know this is a long thing to kind of tie all this up, but I think this is a really important concept to think about when you're thinking about which characters to level. So just to kind of give you guys an example of what my plan is for my account. So these are the 5 characters I got here. Right now, I have Sigmund, Space, Malia, Gunner, and Liz. These are my 5-star characters that I fully ascended. Then the main character that I want to level up next is going to be Catherine, ideally, or if I can't beat the campaign, like, I'm going to be trying as hard as I can with the characters I have right now to be 3-star the campaign, if possible. I'm going to need to level these characters up. I'm going to really just try to pool as much resources as I possibly can to level up the campaign. Zia is going to be a character that I really want to level. And then once I get the campaign finished, I want to get Catherine. And then way down the line, I want to get Ben Austin. So then I'll have all those characters, probably the best characters ready to go. And then I'm going to focus really hard on the Sword Harbor, or what is this faction? I'm going to really go all in on the Sword Harbor Guards as a faction and try to get as far as I possibly can in the faction wars. At the meantime, I have a lot of the Yellow Force mark. So I'm going to take these 4 characters plus Zia here and be able to push further in the force mark as well. But it's really not, at the end of the day, I'm not really getting much out of this. Yes, this is important to do and it's a really slow burn, but just trying to getting these stats over time is going to be really nice, especially with having so many characters in this force mark as well. And then eventually I'll have Sigmund, I'll have Catherine and stuff, and I can start focusing on the red mark as well. But hopefully this is helpful. I'm curious what you guys think down in the comments below. And with that, guys, I'm out of here. Peace.